A pleasant day, everyone. I am Ashley Denise de Guzman, the first reporter of Group 2. Today, we will now move on to the next lesson entitled Of Peoples and a People, Fundamental Questions and Concepts about Nationalism. We were able to know why we study the works and life of Dr. Jose Rizal from the previous lessons last week. And that is because of the Republic Act No. 1425, or the Rizal Law, which mandates the works and life of Rizal be read and taught in all public and non-public universities. But have you ever thought if these literatures truly embodied and showcased what happened before? Or was it modified and adhered to the author's perspective and experiences? It is indeed possible that the facts written in our textbooks are mere half-truth, or the truth only for the few. Now, this adds up to the reason why we must learn history. The artifacts and novels serve as a portal to the past, but more than just reading and understanding the text presented, we must also investigate and look through their experiences and background to gain deeper understanding of the intentions and roots of such actions and movements. In Lesson 3, we will focus first on defining nationalism, then understanding the concept of nation, getting to know Filipinos based upon history, identifying the common traits and values of Filipinos, and acquainting ourselves with the indigenous displacement. In the succeeding lesson, we will highlight the life, background, and experiences of Rizal and attempt to use this knowledge on our interpretation of his works. Let us start by defining the term nationalism. Once we hear nationalism, we can think of the qualities of loyalty and devotion towards our own nation. Nationality or nationalism is also defined as a sense of national consciousness, exalting one nation above all others and placing primary highlight on promotion of its culture and interest. As what we've learned, the 19th century paved its way to Filipino nationalism. Rizal, along with our other heroes or bayanis, promoted nationalism. Rizal believed that the lack of national sentiments brought the destruction of the nation. As he said, a man in the Philippines is only an individual. He was not a member of a nation. He was forbidden and denied of the right of association and is therefore weak in the lens of the Filipino. Rizal was seen as an example of a person who loves his country. He is studied and followed as a reflection on how to be nationalistic and was perceived to possess factors as a nationalistic person. How so? First, he gave emphasis on the importance of Tagalog. He preserved some of our cultural traits and practices. He was very open to criticizing the friars. Aside from that, he defended Filipino traits and used his pen, his words, to convey the love for his country. On the third paragraph of our book, page 42, Valenzuela states that nationalism is a closed circuit that demands paradoxical assertion that despite any acknowledgement of influential outside forces, such as thrust of global politics or decay of colonial control, a nation is therefore or is nevertheless an autonomous entity with distinct culture and history. We had colonizers for many decades, right? But the concept of nationalism and nationalism itself has been with us ever since. Nationalism is what separates us from the colonizers who tried or tries to control us. It is what makes us, our identity. And our national heroes played a vital role for embodying that, along with the principles that kept the Filipinos before and right now as one. Hence, national heroes are a way of simplifying the intricacies of nationalism. To better understand, let us differentiate the terms nation, state, and country. Nation is from the Middle English nation, which means a group of people that possesses the same ancestry and language. From the Latin word natus or natio, it refers to genealogy, lineage, and descent, which is where identity and belongingness are anchored. Meanwhile, when we say state, it is also called a country. Okay? A state is also called a country since both refer to a political and geographical entity. However, in political science, state is the preferred term. Remember that a state is a self-governing political entity. It is an independent country that occupies a specific territory with distinct internationally accepted borders, economic activity, and etc. And the idea of state goes back to ancient Rome, where the term respublica was coined. Nations are culturally homogeneous groups of people larger than a single tribe or community. When a nation of people has a state of their own, it is called a nation state. Places like France, Egypt, and Japan are nation states. There are some states which have two nations like Canada and Belgium. Question, can a nation be without a state? Yes, there are several stateless nations like the Kurds and the Palestinians whose members share social-cultural norms but are located across several states. Nationalism, from what we know, is leaning towards its ethnocultural aspects, right? And according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, nationalism portrays two distinct yet related phenomena. First one is that nationalism illustrates the values of each member of a nation, thereby exhibiting expression of national identity. Hospitality and resilience are some of the common values we can think of when we're asked about the Filipinos. They are said to be very warm, very welcoming, and they remain positive and all smiles against all struggles. And this is a way of exhibiting national identity. For these values, we find pride towards the Philippines. For those students, for example, from the province who came here in Davao or other cities, have exemplified nationalism through the usage of their dialects. Some actually find it awkward and are rather flustered by the fact that their accents make them way different from the majority. But the truth is that their presence itself is a living testament of our tribal lineage and ancestors, so let us find confidence in that. Other examples include the tradition of leaving shoes outside the house or restaurants of Japanese, and the annual celebration of Lunar New Year by the Chinese. But the question is, what really is the deeper expression of national identity? According to our book, it is found in unity. It is through celebrating others' successes, be burdened by the worries of others, and working hand in hand for the sake of everyone. Second one is the movement towards the search for and sustenance of liberty. And this is what our heroes did for us when we were used, abused, and stripped of our rights by the colonizers. Rizal pled to recognize the Philippines as a province and not only as a mere colony of Spain. And he asked to give the Filipinos the same freedom that the Spaniards enjoyed. Meanwhile, the yearning of Bonifacio was for Spaniards to acknowledge Philippines neither as a province or a country, but a nation of its own. Some of the ethnocultural nations are Abazinian of Russia or in Russia, whose inhabitants are called Abazines. In the Philippines, it is Kapampangan or Visayans. But nationalism does not only conform to a set of beliefs about the nation, its origins, nature, and value. Nationalism also has its socio-political nature. Philosopher Thomas Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and John Locke had discussions about what sovereignty means. They said that a nation without territorial sovereignty shall sooner cease to exist, just like the Rohingya, who until now do not have their own territory. Meanwhile, Benedict Anderson further added that nation is unimagined political community. Why do you think, or what do you think was the reason why nationalism became such a big deal, like an insult to injury? It is because nationalism powered movements, uprisings, and revolts against the government and the Catholic Church. When Ilustrados went to Europe, they saw a huge disparity or difference between the life situation and education of the Philippines. 1896 Revolution or Philippine Revolution was rooted from Philippine nationalism. They hoped that each country dweller shall experience the same benefit of Filipinos who are in Europe. Also, other revolts longed for independence from the abuses of the Spanish system. Another way to see nationalism as a socio-political aspect is through this way. Do all heroes or all people who longed and fought for Philippine nationalism or independence had the same lineage, language, and tradition? No. Bonifacio was from Tondo, Rizal was from Calamba, and Burgos was from Vigan. They had different lineages and ancestors, but how were they united? How did they understand each other? It was due to the common struggle and objective, which is the abusive colonizers and nationalism. And today, at this very moment, you and I have different upbringings, traditional language, but why am I standing here talking about history? And why are you on your screens listening even though you barely know me or my experiences? It is because we share a common goal, a common objective, a common good. And what we are doing right now, studying and conversing about history, is an act of nationalism. To sum it all up, Filipino or Philippine nationalism signifies our identity as Filipinos, whether it is through our physical and cultural characteristics. Aside from that, nationalism can be embodied in the face of political and social struggles as people choose to uplift and be lift for the preservation of cultural heritage, security, and promotion of economic development. With nationalism, we can take pride of who we were, who we are, and what we can be as an individuals and as a part of our community and country. So that ends my part. Let us now move on to the next topic. Thank you so much for listening.